Well, hello, everybody, and welcome to Beyond BMR. This is the show where we talk all things, all strange phenomena here in this great world of ours. Great show. Chrissy Newton joins us. I'll bring up Chrissy in a few moments. Thanks to Chrissy in advance for coming on. Joining me in Studio B is the lovely Krista from the Blondes and the Booze Paranormal Podcast. If this is your first time here, please subscribe to Bigfoot Mystery Rob on YouTube, the Blondes and the Booze Paranormal Podcast, and also Texas Front Porch found on YouTube. Turn on your alert bells. The super chat's open. Great way to help support what we do around here. Also, you can become a BMR Pirate R. Join today, everybody. Join the many, join the few. Depends on your point of view, of course. I got to apologize. My right side of my nose is plugged up. It's plugged up, a little stuffy. So if I sound a little nasally, please forgive me. With that being said, I also want to thank everybody out there that's bought my books. Currently available on Amazon, as most of you know by now. Bigfoot Mystery Rob presents True Cryptid Encounters, Book 1. Dropped a year, 3 months ago. Book 2 dropped in August. Thank you for that. Leave a review if you buy the book. That helps promote sales. Everything's analytics these days, much like YouTube podcasts. Everything's analytics. So I appreciate that. All you need to do is type Bigfoot Mystery Rob on your Amazon browser. Leave a review. Of course, subscribe. Listen to us on Spreaker, all podcasts, every platform. We're out there both visually and audibly on YouTube, and of course on the podcast platforms. And I've kind of said enough about that because I have limited time with my lovely guest tonight. So I'm going to bring up Miss Krista.
Hey.
Hey, what's shaking?
Hey. It's Tuesday.
It is Tuesday. Another night to kick back and talk all things strange.
It was my Monday, though, today at work. So I was like,
Yeah. You know, when I work out of the house like this, the days run together. Oh, is today really Monday? Is it Tuesday? The only thing that I make sure I don't work is Sunday. Because you know me in the NFL, my Detroit Lions, victorious once again, by the way.
Good deal. Congratulations.
Thank you. And, I think we might be visiting your I hate to say this too early. I don't want to, jinx it. Don't want to jinx it. But I can see the Detroit Lions. I'm going to say it. Kansas City Super Bowl. I don't know.
We'll see. We'll keep fingers crossed.
The Chiefs are undefeated, and we only have one loss. Yeah. So, I deserve it, though. I suffered through 0-16. I've never missed a game. They've been putrid. They've been awful. And finally something to, that I can cheer about on Sundays.
Right.
And that's my Lions. So.
There you go.
We have a great guest, and her name is Chrissy Newton, and I got her bio here. You can tell she's a great writer and journalist, and she says about herself, with an eye for the cosmos, the world beyond her own has always been a fascination for Chrissy, from UFOs and astronomy to ancient civilizations. Her curiosity is as limitless as the universe. By day, she's an owner of Vocab Communications and an award-winning professional with a knack for getting people talking, while by night, she hosts and produces a space science futurism UFO-themed podcast called Rebelliously Curious with Chrissy Newton. I had to practice that word. I said it to Chrissy yesterday, and I just flubbed it. So I think I was smooth with that. It's a science and space news website, and she also has a science and space news website called The Debrief. Chrissy has appeared on History, eTalk, HGTV, News, Talk1010 Marketing Magazine, and numerous other media outlets, while recently becoming a co-host on Alien Encounters, Fact or Fiction. You can find that on Discovery Plus and HBO Max. She serves as a partner, writer, and director for The Debrief, and a recent winner of the Canadian Podcast Awards for Best Science Series. With that, I welcome Chrissy Newton.
Hey.
Hi.
Hi. Good to see you.
I didn't realize that was such a mouthful, but thank you for that.
Sorry, guys. You can always, what I'm going to do? I'm just going to cut it down to like a sentence. Be like, this is Chrissy. She's here.
Yeah. I don't do that all the time because I don't really ask for the bios no more because I really write up my own. But then I'm like, well, that's kind of not me. I don't like putting words in other people's mouths. So.
Right.
I had to read that because I loved it. It was great.
Thank you.
For sure.
No, it's an update for me, but my friend originally wrote that bio. The first bio I ever had, it's my best friend. She wrote it for me. It's like, this is so good. And then I've just like updated it and altered it as I've gone along for the past like 5 years. But you did a fabulous job.
Perfect.
Awesome. If you might want to bring your mic down just a tad, you kind of
Yeah,
cut out a
yeah.
little bit. It's not your internet service.
Is that better?
That's perfect. Thanks.
Okay, perfect.
Well, yeah.
You're welcome.
So once again, thanks for coming on. And just the snowball question: how did you get involved with? You're a busy woman, you got a lot going on for yourself. What got you started in this field?
My dad loves UFOs. He had a UFO sighting when he was I think it was 19. We've been trying to figure this out properly now. It was 1986 or 87 or 89, in between those 3 years, and up by Pembroke, Ontario, which is like Northern Ontario. Him and a group of people had a UFO sighting, and my dad was lucky enough, he took a picture of it. And so he showed me that negative picture when I was a little girl, and it lit up everything inside of me, and his quest to kind of figure out what this was really became mine. And to this day, we still talk about UFOs and politics. That's like, yesterday he called me and he's like, have you watched George Knapp's new documentary, Chrissy, on Netflix? And I'm like, I haven't had time yet, Dad. He's like, it's so good. And and I laugh because he's taught me for so long, or we would discuss it for so long. And now it's funny, people will call him and he'll say, I don't know, go call Chrissy because she knows more than I do. So, times have reversed, but we still, I take his wisdom and his love for this to heart every day. And I'm just very happy he's my dad, and something we get to bond over, which is really cool. Not everyone gets that. So I feel very grateful.
That is awesome. Yeah. And you mentioned George Knapp in that particular series on Netflix. I saw it on our local news was advertising. I said, wow, the news is actually my local news now. It's kind of a tight community. And it was like, wow, they're actually talking UFOs on here. Because I've tried to get on the TV show to promote my books. And, cryptids and Bigfoot, you really got to sell them. So I'm not giving up on that. Not giving up on it, but it's a tough sell. To have that broadcast, in a local Detroit market, right?
One day it will move. I have a feeling if this has moved the needle, it might take a while, but it will move the needle at one point. Cryptids will be a bigger conversation at some point in time.
I think
in the media. Yeah.
When I started diving, I told you the other day, diving into this subject, I mean, it's just, I don't know where to start, right? Now, you mentioned George Noory, and I remember watching one of his first interviews. He interviewed John Lear. Back in 1976. Now, George Knapp, I should say. I think I might have said Noory because I was just on that show the other night. However, he talked about George Lear, space and everything, and Knapp, Mr. Knapp, George, very big skeptic, right? And then he was all of a sudden after that interview, he kind of changed the course of his career, went into investigative journalism, what he does today. We all know him and what he does. And one of the things that struck him was about the Roswell incident. And so why do you think that that's significant in today's UFO society?
Well, Roswell's so significant. It was a turning point within pop culture. But I would say even before that, it was 1947, pilot Kenneth Arnold, who saw a UFO, and then the local media, actually, now we're talking about media, reported about it. It was 2 local reporters. They came out with a story, and then that following week, there was a press release that went out with a larger, I forget the full name for the actual media corporation, but they came out with a press release, and then Life magazine picked this up, and then they syndicated it. And so that's how this whole idea of what a UFO or flyer saucer looks like really start from that. It also did start from pulp magazines as well. The first image actually of a UFO was like the saucer shape wasn't Kenneth Arnold. It was actually a design, because way before that, UFOs were shaped as submarines until Frank R. Miller, I believe it was, I think it was Frank R. Miller, a graphic designer for Pulp magazine, created them. But Kenneth Arnold and his sighting is the one that really syndicated it across, North America. So yeah, it's wild, right? It's all over media, and it has been for so long and forever now. Everyone's talking about it in the media.
Well, they are. And in fact, I just saw the other day that they're doing yet another congressional hearing. I believe it is tomorrow.
It's tomorrow, yeah, 11:30 a.m. Eastern Standard Time, if anyone's curious.
Yeah, well, I'm always curious. I've seen a couple of them. The last one was last year, summer, maybe it was, talking about the Emmets, is that how you say it? The Nemets, excuse me. And so, okay, I'm watching through this, and a lot of the things, I think a lot of us already knew a lot of that. And let me ask you, do you think that there's more than these hearings provide for us? They're not going full bore with this. They're holding back a lot. They're not very transparent, in my opinion. Are they to you or
Yeah,
no?
yeah, the House Oversight Committee, they only are asking questions, right? It's a place where you can start to push for legislation, and it's a place where they can ask really hard questions and get answers. And everybody last hearing went on under oath, right? Which is really important for people to know. So, they can't lie legally. They can't
Right.
lie. So it's important because yes, we're not going to get everything, and they can't say
Mhm.
everything because some things are confidential and there's national security involved. So they have to say it in a SCIF, which is like a soundproof room that you can actually have an entire building as a SCIF. I just found out recently from someone who works in intelligence, but they're in a room that's a SCIF that is soundproof, and so that they can have confidential conversations. So you can't really say that in front of all of the people that are going to be there, but they can say it outside of media and not being live streams for everyone to hear, just in case it does cross over any national security issues, right? Which I think I'm totally for. We don't need China or any of our other foreign adversaries knowing more than they already know because they're watching a UFO hearing, right? Some of the stuff does
Right.
need to be quiet, but I think the whole conversation about this is that there is stuff that the government knows. We don't know how much they know. We're trying to figure
Mhm.
out what is a lie and what is not. And then the question is why haven't they released it? And then how is it going to impact humanity?
Mhm. Why do you think they haven't released? Do you think it would cause like major, panic and things like that, or?
I think there's it depends on who you're talking to. I think some people think that there's going to be major panic, and some people believe there won't be. Um,
Mhm.
I personally think that there might be some still. I think people will really question, might not be panic, but I think they will question themselves and what does reality mean to me? And
Mhm.
that's very internalized, and it can not always outwardly affect everyone visually, but it affects people inside. So I really do feel that that will be something that people will, even as long as you've been in the UFO topic, you might still question things. I know I have. I've been in this since I've been a little girl, and I go through paradigm shifts all the time of what I think is actually going on. And my theories always change with new information that comes in, right?
Yeah.
But yeah, I do think that they might be worried about that. And also, again, national security, right? You don't want to spread information to your foreign adversaries and make you susceptible to being
Sure.
hurt. And so I think that's one of the major reasons that this is considered a threat in the Pentagon is for those reasons. And also there's things flying in impunity in airspace that we just, don't know what they
Mhm.
are. And
Sure.
there's something happening. I think it's probably like 1% out of like 100%. Is it UAP? I think it's 1% that we
Yeah.
just can't identify. And with that said, even though it's so small, it's still pretty amazing that there's something out there. And it's also kind of scary too.
Absolutely. It was funny is this morning I was telling my daughter, she's 14, that we had the show to do tonight. And she didn't know before that, but she had told me before that this morning she was waiting out for the bus, and she goes out at like 5:40 in the morning, really, really early. And she said there was a white light like zipping around the sky. I'm like, huh. And then I told her that you were coming on tonight's show, and it was just kind of ironic, I said, well,
Synchronicity.
you saw something, I guess, but what it was, I don't know.
It's
Yeah,
awesome.
it's all synchronicity,
Yeah.
because your little cat pulled up in the background, Chrissy, and Krista's cat always watches the show. I
How
thought that
my
was,
cat is tonight.
yeah, that was cute. But so you believe that 1% are not identified, Chrissy? Did I hear you correctly?
Yeah, I would say at least, 1%. I don't think it's more than
Mhm.
that. for the longest period of time, I probably would never put a percentage around it.
Yeah.
But being in this topic adjacent to it as a little girl, and then, obviously being a woman, and now investigating and also writing about it and talking to people, and people that have more intelligence internally and also in their jobs than I do at times, and scientists and all these different people, I really truly do think that it's a lot less of a percentage that people actually do see something that is unknown. So maybe we should explain what maybe UFO is. It's like obviously an unidentified flying object, or UAP, but the thing is, like, it can always, everything can be unidentified until it's identified, and a lot of things are identified. So that's why I say it's like 1% we can't, because majority of the time it will probably be space junk, it will probably be the ISS, it could be Starlink, it could be so many things. Gosh, we can't even detect balloons. The American government can't even properly detect balloons, let alone a person that's not a civilian walking around. So I think that there's just a lot of that. Right. And then we do have that 1%, but it doesn't mean it's not true. And that's the part that I think is really interesting. To me, it's really exciting, because when you talk to someone and you have these 5 observables and you have all these things that you can look at to identify if it's a UAP, and then you realize, oh my gosh, it hits all of them. You're like, okay, you've got something here. And that's pretty amazing in my mind. And to be honest, I want to be able to identify what it is. I think it makes me sleep easier when I know what that is. I can identify in the sky rather than not.
Yeah, you mentioned too about the balloon, if I remember correctly, too, going back to Roswell for a moment. I think it wasn't originally where they all of a sudden it was leaked that it was like a UFO sighting, the crash in Roswell. Then, not even 24 hours later, they kind of skewed that a little bit, saying it was, I believe, a weather balloon. But let me ask you, in what you know today, do you think that the actual incident that we've all heard about and want to believe in, do you think that did actually occur?
I think something happened for sure in that area. There's too many. There's a first witnesses, right? First account witnesses of touching something, experiencing something, being part of it. There's also so many military bases. We know that there was tons of government activity that was working and doing all different types of probably testing of new technology. So Nevada is like a hot spot for like bases and also testing. Right. We've seen it through like the Manhattan Project where they're testing nuclear bombs. Like Manhattan's had it all. Manhattan, Nevada. Gosh, I don't know where that came from. Nevada's had it all. And so I think that thank gosh it's not Manhattan, but it's late, guys. It's 9:20 here.
I know for you it's really late. You got to get up at 4 in the morning. But there is another thing on Netflix called the Manhattan UFO Project. That's where you've got it skewed, probably.
I must have, or I don't know why I said that. It's just late. But Manhattan, Nevada.
Yeah, same thing.
But Nevada, yeah, has it all. And so I think that something did happen. Do I 100% know? Like, gosh, I don't, right? But I think it's interesting, and I've never talked to first account witnesses, but I know people that have, and people that are journalists that have. Toby at the Daily Roswell Record, good friend and wonderful UAP reporter that's a local there that truly deeply loves this topic, and he's talked to first account witnesses, and we've talked. So I think that there's for sure something. I just don't know if it's been military testing or if it's UFOs. But something did happen, something did crash, and something that's extremely secretive to the American government for sure happened there.
Yeah. Do you believe they have aliens there and all that good stuff?
There's so many things. I've talked to recently people that have worked at Area 51, because that's where they say not so much Roswell, New Mexico, not so much. Sorry, I'm confusing states here, guys.
Yeah, that's okay.
I'm like, I should know better. Roswell, New Mexico, or Nevada are two different areas.
You're from Canada. I'll give you a break.
No, but I think it's too late. But sorry, in Roswell, New Mexico, there's lots of activity and bases. But and same within Nevada. But but yeah, I say Nevada, they say that there's bodies in
Right.
in Area 51, but I don't know if that's true too. I think that there's been tons of testing. Is there a
Mhm.
form of craft there? There potentially could be. And we look at things right now like Immaculate Constellation is a potential program has been leaked by Michael Schellenberg, who's a journalist who said that that has been those documents that he's looked at, although the person hasn't come on the record
Mhm.
yet. So I think that we have for sure, and they're saying there's legacy programs and that these are attached to those areas. So for sure, there probably was some form of technology, and there probably is some understanding of technology, and it might
Mhm.
have been at one of those bases, and Area 51 could have been them, but we don't know if there's bodies. I have no idea. You know, there's so much conversation about non-humans and biologics, and that's the part where I go, okay, I really need to see
Mhm.
the evidence. And it doesn't
Right.
mean I don't think that it's not happening. I just want to see the evidence.
Mhm.
I really do, and it's about time we've seen it if that's actually what's happening.
Sure.
We know the government says about national security, and what are your thoughts? You think that these civilizations, alien or not, or otherwise, and these UFOs, UAPs roaming our space, you think they do provide some sort of threat to our country or the northern hemisphere?
I don't think they're threats. We've seen someone, there is a marketer, and he also does analysis. His name is Larry Hancock, and he works with the Scientific Coalition for UAP Studies. And I've interviewed Larry, and Larry did something called the Intentions Report that I believe it started from like 1960s, just through pretty much throughout the Cold War. And they were looking at these correlations with UAP and what they thought their intentions were. So
Mhm.
the intention report is coming out, but the previous report talked about all of the correlations around nuclear activity and nuclear bases that were military based, not civilian. And they've never done anything to hurt us. You know, they've never done anything to really protect us. They've might have muddled in technology, nuclear technology, but they've never really stopped wars. And this is what Lou Elizondo, former counterintelligence officer, has said. They've never stopped wars, but they've never started them. So I don't think they really have an intention to harm us. I would say that, because if they did, you think they would have done it by now, unless they're like playing the long game, which is like, I don't
Well,
know how long that is, but it's probably pretty long.
it's interesting because and what I've known about this topic, I found some fascinating articles about a possibility of otherworldlies, right? Stopping UFO was spotted over a nuclear war zone, or not a war zone. That's a bad word.
Nuclear facilities.
Yes,
Yeah.
thank you for that. I don't know any words today either. I got my words messed up.
It's okay, join the club.
That
I'm
they,
messing up my states.
that, yeah,
Seriously. Should
I
know
hear you.
better. Yeah,
I it's okay. You're doing fine as
I
always.
appreciate that.
But so some had suggested they prevented nuclear war. There, and I mean, I don't know. They disengaged our systems. I mean, a lot of these stories I've heard, some of them are very far out, yet some I can see as, yeah, that's a very good possibility. But something like extraterrestrial, you know, stopping us from pushing the button, either whether it's our side or the other side, right? If you had to have heard about those
Yeah.
stories,
Oh,
right?
yeah. Yeah. There's within the nuclear bases. I'm forgetting what the oh my gosh, she will kill me now. That knows there was a whole hearing about this too. There's a conference about this where people were testifying that they've had these experiences in working, and it hasn't just been one; it's been multiple different bases that have nuclear firearms, and they have been obviously like turned off, not
Mhm.
turned on. They've been turned off, and so I think that people, you could say that they're not saving us, but it wasn't that we were going to have some type of conflict or any type of like war or activation in any of that regard. If anything, they were just on the base, and then it was, signaled to everybody that, hey, these things are turned off and we did not do this, right? So I wouldn't say they're protecting us. There are some conversations that's not what happened. But depending on who you believe. I don't think it was protecting us. If anything, I think it might have been sending a signal to be like, hey, wake up, right? But they weren't protecting us from any type of like nuclear fallout or anything like that or conflict. They were really just kind of signaling like, hey, either we can do this if this is exactly what happened and some form of UAP did do this or other higher intelligence did this. They were saying, hey, we have the ability to do this, and B, maybe look at what you're doing.
You know, then to further on that, people were suggesting that, you know, what in the world would aliens, if you will, want with our planet, natural resources and that, and I'm thinking, to me, if aliens exist, UFOs exist, and I think that they do, their technology has to be far superior, and I think that their resources have to be more abundant than ours. But I'm wrong. I don't know anything about space. That's just me, Rob. Just that's my opinion, my thought process. What's your thoughts on that? Do you think that we have something that they need? Because to me, if it does exist, they could just take it at any time.
Yeah. Oh, for sure. If they're higher intelligence than us. But, I don't think intelligence mean that you have to take things or, or give things. I would hope that things or intelligence would be more kind than
Mm-hmm.
not. I would hope that with intelligence comes, being kind and nice and having empathy. But I don't know if that's always true too. There's another thing too, is that they always say, for example, in New Mexico, in Roswell, when the crash happened, they're like, well, how could something so much smarter than us crash? How could that happen? And I'm like, well, why can't it? I'm like, why does it have to be perfect? I'm like, why does everything have to be perfect? Why, just because you might be of what we think a higher intelligence, why do you have to be perfect and flawless? It doesn't make any sense. I'm like, everything's allowed to make mistakes. That's the best part about either
Yeah.
being human or whatever we have. When the solar system happens, do we say it's something happens in the solar system? Do we say a mistake? No, we just document it, because
Yeah.
it doesn't mean it's a mistake. So I think the idea that these things are smarter and more powerful or have the ability to do all these things doesn't mean that they don't mess up. I just don't think that's possible. I don't think that's realistic in a world that we screw up every day. God, look at me. I'm
Well,
screwing up as we talk on the
no.
podcast. So,
And
and I also think that they don't have to be super intelligent. We will probably, more than likely, I think the James Webb Telescope will find something on another planet, and we will point to having some form of biological life that has just started that we will find, and that's life too, and it's not intelligent.
Well, just like those single cell microbes that we allegedly found on other planets, right? That's just one cell organisms. Yeah. And listen, whatever goes up must come down. We've seen it throughout the United States and all the countries in Canada all the time. Things happen. Not everything is foolproof. Our military not foolproof. Anything is not foolproof. So anything can happen.
Totally.
Anything can happen. There's so many different things we could discuss. We jumped into this. Thanks for that. You've got some other things going on with your podcast, and been also, I seen just a couple months ago or whenever it was, as your show you're co-host on, Alien Encounters Fact or Fiction, with your other co-host, and his name is
Mitch Horowitz.
Mitch Horowitz. I've seen several of those episodes. And before we get into that, I must say that I looked it up. I saw, scanning the browser, the web. I got to tell you, I owned a bar for 13 years. That bar, from some of the photos I seen on the outside and the actual inside, that looks like a place that I would bring a couple friends with, because it looks kind of rough, not very open to non-locals. I'm just asking. That was the impression I got.
Oh, yeah. When I sat down in one of our first spots where the camera was, they ended up moving it. But one of the first spots, I looked up, and underneath me, or above me, and I was underneath, this tribute to, I believe it was one of their locals, and he was a biker, and he had like his shirt with his face on it. And I looked up and I laughed, because I was like, I guess he's going to be, we'll just say his name's Bob. I was like, it looks like Bob's going to be looking after me during the show. And I asked, I was like, is this a tribute? And they said, yeah, Bob passed away. And I was like, that's amazing. And then I started looking up at all the tiles in the ceiling, and there were so many of the locals that was their spots they would sit in, and they passed away. But I will say this, the variety in Roswell, New Mexico is the only actual bar. There's other restaurant bars, but it's the only bar that doesn't serve food. Like I think it serves chips, but just drinks. There's no other. So when you want to say like local watering hole, it is because it's the only bar that just serves alcohol and no food, because all the other bars are pretty much like restaurants. They serve food and alcohol. So it's legitly a local watering hole, and it's got, a rough. Yeah, I guess you could say it's rough, but
I mean, kind of just from the impression,
It is. Yeah. It's a local watering hole. That's 100% sure. And you're a local. If you go there, you've been going there for a while, or you're new and you're probably meeting people and you've kind of shown up, but it's got its turf. Let's put it that way. It has its own turf.
Yeah. I mean, I'm not a baby. I'm very into exploring, and I'll try anything, most anything at least once. I would probably venture in because that's just me, but I don't think it's up for the average Joe. It kind of reminded me of a place downtown Detroit that you might now want to stumble into unless you know somebody. But I'm not here to slam that. I think it's awesome. I like the aesthetics of it. Hey, it's for me. Thumbs up. I will visit it one day if I'm down that area.
Yes.
The now when this show came about, what spurred you on with this idea? Were you part of the production, or was this an idea you pitched, or somebody come to you? How did that all evolve?
Yeah, it's a good question. No, I was asked. So I was just asked to be talent in it and look at this from like more of a scientific perspective and data perspective, just because obviously what I do, my work in journalism, I look for facts and data to be able to talk to people, to be able to communicate what's going on. I come off a little bit on the show more of as a debunker, which I'm actually, in retrospect, funny enough that people knowing me would be like, Chrissy's part of this counterculture, or I'm always contributing into the counterculture and talking about UFOs. But on the show, people must have been like, well, she's more of a debunker, but I'm okay with that, because it doesn't mean that I don't think there's something going on, because like 100% I think there is. And if you watch all my other shows, you would see, okay, well, she really does. And she's really looking into this. But I like it for the fact that we're not saying like, we're not putting a stamp on everything and saying UFO, because I don't think that's not credible. If you're going to put a stamp on everything and say it's a UFO, it's like, you're really not looking at the data. You're really just now believing, and you're not critically thinking through things. So for me, I feel that at least with the data, doesn't mean data generally is always right. It can make mistakes, and testimony can always change your thoughts. But again, I try to go by the data and then by testimony. But and what I know from the data, I would say is more accurate than obviously my opinion of what's going on, because opinions aren't facts. But for sure, it's an interesting place to stay or be in for sure in this type of show, because most people, would think I'm not a skeptic by far, but they would for sure think I'm a debunker. And a little bit I am, in the show.
Yeah, I definitely got the impression that you're not after watching some of your other things. And then it's kind of like with Mitch, then it's kind of like a softer version of good cop, bad cop thing. Now, okay, it's Chrissy's time to debunk or come up with the data and why she thinks yes, yay or nay. But I know it's a production. I know that a lot of time gets put in this, but a lot of times when a person's all excited about, they had this experience, and you say, well, the data doesn't really support it. Then the look on their face, I don't know if it's real or, or just built into the show. They're like, oh, wow, really? I'm like, oh, but hey, listen, but I think everybody has experiences. Some people might perceive them differently than others, though, right? Is that a fair statement, you think?
100%. Just because I might see something and somebody else might see something, but their experience might be different, but it doesn't mean that either is not valid. Right? Like I truly believe that. Like, and people perceive the world differently. We all do. Sure. And we all think differently, right? Like our brains operate differently. People are neurodivergent. People are neurotypical. And some people say that neurotypical might not even exist. We're all kind of on this spectrum. So knowing that you can perceive something through the way that your brain processes information, for sure. Like, and I only say it politely, because I know there's obviously men here, but Krista, you might agree. As a woman, for example, I could be in a room and walk in a room with a group of people, and I can notice everything generally that's going around me, at least the men around me, because it's a protection thing. I know what's happening over here kind of because I have to be on my six and my peripherals because of something potentially happening and the fear, unfortunately, as a woman that you have. So my perception sometimes around me is a lot quicker than a man's. And I've noticed that with male friends I've been with. They're like, you picked that up so fast. I said, yeah, because I'm a woman. I said, because I'm used to, unfortunately, people do prey on women more than they do prey on men too, but sometimes they prey on women more. And I have to be mindful. So that is like a sixth sense in its own way that, I would have picked up something paranormal quicker in a room than somebody else would because I'm attuned to it, because I need to be around me. But again, doesn't mean that men aren't. I'm just using it as an example.
Right.
But, that's and it's a different, my reality would have been different. I've been like, that happened. And the person beside me would have said, no, it didn't. I didn't see anything.
Yeah.
No, I could agree with that. And I understand this is where the men and the women differ just a little. Then we can move on. Something else I got to ask you. But yeah, when women go into a public setting and you have the men, just you can feel their eyes on your back. I get it. Hey, it has to be a horrible experience for women. Men, on the other hand, kind of embrace that. That's where we're different, So, but you know what I'm saying? When we walk in and they have the eyes on us, if it's women versus, But anyway, I had to throw that in there. But intuition plays a big, I'm going to ask you, data aside, do you have that intuition, that good feeling about somebody where, hey, you know what? I think what this person is telling me is legit, despite what maybe the data says. Have you ever come across that? Are you good at picking that out, you think?
I think so. Yeah. I think my intuition's pretty strong, I'll say, as a female and as a person. I do listen to my intuition, and my intuition's generally pretty right most of the time. Sometimes if I don't listen to it and I've been in a position where I hadn't and I regretted it, I wish I did. And now I know better. But I think that, yeah, there are times. I also feel that sometimes you can obviously feel it off somebody too. Like energy is real, right? You can feel when someone is going through PTSD. So someone has experienced something that's so traumatic, and you sit with them, and then you can feel them like literally having, not everybody, but sometimes I can feel the moments that they're talking about, but I also can see it. If I can't feel it, I can see it. I can see that their eyes are kind of going back and forth. They're looking back for the memory. They're trying to capture it. So my intuition, I think, might pick up on the body cues, unless they're really good at lying. But if they're not, then I usually listen to the body cues, and then I watch for emotions too. So there's tons of things, and their testimony, and if they're telling it correctly. But intuition does play a big part. That's why testimony is so important. And, outside of all the epidemics that we have in different degrees, when it comes into, health and politics and you name it, you could say, I do think there's like this epidemic of people not believing each other. And I think that we see this through not even just UFOs. I think we see it through everybody. Nobody wants to believe each other when things have happened to them, or just even believe each other. So I that to me, I think, is a real issue that needs to be solved for everything. And UFOs and experiencers are the prime example of that, because not a lot of people believe them. And I feel bad for those people, because something happened to them. And how can you not believe somebody when something that extreme has happened to somebody, when they're trying to just get someone to relate to them?
And really briefly, before I forget, David Altman's in our chat room, and he wants me to say, hey, a quick shout out.
Hey. I love Altman.
Yeah.
He was actually the one who put me forward for the show. So it was very sweet of him.
Oh,
so
awesome. Yeah, he was on my show. Boy, I got to hit him back as well. It's been well over a year. Thanks, Dave. What's your favorite episode that you did that really struck you? Now, what I mean by favorite, I'm not talking ratings or your feel. What was if there was anything you've done on this, and that's in your last season, was there anything that really struck out to you that really blew your mind away, or have you pretty much heard everything up to this point?
Do you mean for Discovery on the show?
Yeah, the show. Yeah.
General?
Well, it could be either or, really. How about anything on the show that stands out, and then maybe in your life moving forward?
Yeah, I would say that the USO, potential USO, the transmedium. So transmedium means that it can go into water, atmosphere, and space. And there's nothing within any inventory that we know of around the world. There's some things in China that has drones that can go into atmosphere and water and go back in and out. But as of now, we don't know of all three. And especially with size, right? So there is a transmedium. I'm forgetting his name. Altman, you can pop it into the chat if you remember his name as the guest. But he came on and he was a seaman with his wife, and they lived, or his partner, and they lived on this boat. And it was in the Catalina Island, which is obviously very rich with history, just off the coast of California. And there's so much UFO lore there. And he talks about this UFO that he's seen multiple of them underneath him, but then he had a video of a triangle UFO that was above him. So he showed us that. And so all the data that we had was coming from the Coast Guard, ended up seeing it. His partner was actually on land, I believe. She was on another boat, or she was on land. She wasn't on the boat with him. And she called him and said, "Hey, are you seeing this above you?" And he said, "Yes, are you seeing it?" So there's triangulation going on here.
Okay.
And then the Coast Guard, I believe, saw it. Then there was calls to the Coast Guard. And then after that, we looked to see if there was any military activity in that area, if there was any explosions or anything that was happening. And there was low barge explosions that were happening, probably like, I think maybe a kilometer or so away from where he was, but nothing that was in the air. So either if they were doing some type of testing, then they were not telling us and it was a secret, but more than likely it wasn't. And he's seen multiple of these things being on the water in Catalina and off of Catalina. So it's that to me and then I think he had 3 of the 5 observables or something to that degree, where he had more of them. And it was unbelievable. And when we got off camera, I stepped aside to him and I said, "I really, truly believe, I think that you saw something." This keeps reminding me, I need to write that story for the debrief, because I truly think he saw something, and it was unbelievable. And he was such a credible witness, and you could tell that he knew so much about just being in the water and what he was looking at and how to identify these things, or just identify something that wasn't that was unknown or was known. So that was for sure one of the best experiences, one of the best interviews I've had to date with people. And I've talked to lots of people. So yeah, very credible, very, very credible witness. And you remind me, I got to write something down.
Well, you got something out of the show today. Appreciate that.
Thank you very much. You're reminding me I need to do something.
yeah, that's great. Chris, I don't want to hog the whole show. What you got going on? Do you want to ask Chris?
I actually have several questions wrote down, but I'm just going to start with the most obvious. Do you think that like the paranormal and the Bigfoot phenomena and the UFO, like they're related, or do you think they're?
Well, it depends on who you're talking to. If you look at Skinwalker Ranch, and where we were talking about this earlier on the phone, I think yesterday, and if you look at Skinwalker Ranch, and if you believe everything that happened there in Utah, they say that in the first book, Colin Cullahare says that, I believe it was Colin, says that he saw a Bigfoot come out of a portal. So, and I know it was him, and I wasn't sure if there was anyone else that saw it with him, but I know from what I remember in the book, he was the person, and that's what he reports. So there for sure is some connections, and that's like one of those areas where there's tons of them all over the world, but that's a hot spot where kind of everything is like merged together as one, from UFOs to like spirits to Bigfoot to the unknown to all paranormal in one area. And I'm not going to say it's just Skinwalker. I think it's throughout the entire Uinta Basin in Utah. So that for sure, we've heard that. And I've heard tons of different stories, right? You hear throughout the years where people said they've seen aliens or some type of like, ET connected with Bigfoot. So I don't know how many I always hear when I hear UFOs with Bigfoot, because sometimes I think UFOs are very different than sometimes the alien talk. I separate the two because they are different. They can be connected, but they're also different conversations. So most of the time, if you follow the alien dialogue, you hear that a lot more than you would with just general UAP activity.
Yeah, you mentioned like Skinwalker Ranch, and I know there's Bradshaw Ranch. We have Marley Woods here in Missouri, and it's all they're all kind of the same. As far as like Skinwalker Ranch, the things that have seen there. between the UFOs, the cryptids, the ghosts, a little bit of everything. So I just find that fascinating, honestly.
I do too. I like it. Micah Hanks from the Debrief, and I've mentioned this before to Rob. He knows a lot, and I'll talk to him sometimes about cryptids because I don't know a lot about it. Like UFOs are very much in my wheelhouse, and and I'm learning about that stuff every day still. History beats current stuff, you name it, right? It's like a never-ending learning learning it. That's why it's an ology. It's an area of study, and you're learning all the time, and I love that about it. But yeah, I think it's fascinating too. I also really, really liked Loch Ness Monster when I was a kid. I always thought that was interesting more than Bigfoot. I got into Bigfoot maybe a little bit later in life, but I always thought sorry, my cat. I always thought Loch Ness Monster was such an interesting tale. And I know Ryan Sprague is out in those regions, and I've always asked him like, what's going on with Nessie in recent.
Right.
And I should say Ryan Sprague is a podcaster in UFOs. He has Somewhere in the Sky, which is a really great podcast.
Nessie, the Loch Ness Monster, I think I saw prior to like the Patterson Gimlin film, which of course is the Bigfoot footage. I was really into Nessie, and I was really, as a kid, very excited. In fact, when I had seen that, I think it was on In Search of, remember that old show with Spock, Leonard Nimoy. So, of course, way before the days of the computer and the internet. So I do my due diligence to go in a library and start looking at things. My dad already pre-programmed in my head that I was going to college. So, as a young kid, I started thinking, well, what am I going to do? And I came home one day, told my mom and my dad, I decided I want to go to college to be an oceanographer. Nice. I want to study the ocean. Well, I never got into that because I found out down the road that there's no money involved in it. But today it's not all about money. I kind of, we all make choices in life, and I bypassed it for fortune and fame, and I got neither today. But with that being said, once you dive into the cryptid field, I believe a little bit, of course, I believe that they are connected in some fashion. I think they're all on the same plane. I think that they all can time travel, go through different portals. They can, the different realms and so on and so forth. And, we always find, as again, I told you maybe backstage, I've spoken with like 400 people, and primarily cryptids, and now I'm moving more into this subject, but a lot of times there'll be a UFO or an unidentified flying object somewhere, and then up the road, somebody has a report of a Bigfoot encounter, sighting, or you'll see kind of unrelated a little bit, the orange and yellow and blue orbs, and then all of a sudden you'll see a cryptid materialize out of that. So there's a lot of commonalities, I think, the more you explore it, because I don't know that they exist together. And some people, Chrissy, suggested aliens, a Bigfoot could even be an alien. Don't know that I buy that, but it's very interesting stuff. It's very interesting.
It is. It's so wild. I know that in Canada, because I'm based in Toronto, but even in Milton, there's some Bigfoot hunters out here, and a couple have contacted me. I've just said, hey, like, I know you're into just UFOs and stuff like that. This is what I'm doing out here, and they're in the Niagara Escarpment. So, and you know what? I should tell you guys this story, and I won't say who it's from, but I did say it to somebody recently. So, and this is wild, and I do believe this woman, and you can tell me what you think. So she's my friend's ex-girlfriend. And so they were dating for a little bit. And so when before they broke up, the partner told me this. And so she was with her son, and they were walking kind of like, I think it was by a wooded forest area out by Guelph, which is like somewhat close to the Niagara Escarpment, but like 20, 30, 40 minutes away from the Niagara Escarpment. But there's like wooded areas, obviously in southwestern Ontario and northern Ontario, or southern Ontario, and lots of northern Ontario. But they were walking and they looked and they saw, and the son saw this. They both drew pictures for me, both not being in the same space. One was on the phone, the son was on the phone, and the girlfriend was with my friend. And then the three of us were in the room. So they said her and her son were walking years ago, and they looked, and when they looked together, they saw a white monkey looking like a white monkey in the distance, and it stared at them, and they both stopped instantly, and they were petrified, and they didn't know what to do, and they watched this thing for like, I don't know if it was a couple minutes or longer, like 10 minutes in that span.
Wow.
And so, yeah. And so then they obviously walked away and like, were like, what did we just see? But they said that the thing, like it wasn't a monkey, but it had like a shape and it was white, but it wasn't human. They knew it wasn't human, and and there's no animals at all. There's not even white bears in here. Like, as you're finding an albino bear, and I don't even know if that exists. But they said they looked at this thing, and then she drew the picture. She's a really great artist. She drew it for me, and then she asked her son to draw it. He took a picture, and he drew the exact same thing.
Wow.
Yeah. So I took those photos and actually sent them to Micah Hanks and was like, I was like, if anything, when you're talking about Bigfoot and stuff like that, here's a story that you might want to go talk to these two credible witnesses about, because I know her. She wouldn't lie about this. And her son was, I think, a teenager at that point, and now he's in his 20s, because this was a while ago. And so they both saw something, and it's unbelievable. And I've never heard a Bigfoot story ever from a first encounter. So that really, like, I was like, okay, whoa. Yeah, it actually like startled me a little bit, and I was like, that's a wild story. So I actually kept the original too.
Wow.
You gotta keep the original picture. And so yeah, and then kept the other one that his son did. But I've always said to her, maybe you should go down the Bigfoot road. I said, because she always asked me answers, and I said, well, I don't know much about it. I said, but you should probably go and talk to people that are in the cryptid world and go down that road, because you obviously saw something and they might be able to have answers. So
very cool.
There's a Canadian Bigfoot story for you.
Yeah.
Great. Yeah. I guess it would be kind of look like a Yeti, but it's the same thing, isn't it?
Bigfoot I definitely believe it was a Bigfoot. And I believe, because we hear of encounters, some people see them in red or black or brown hair or even the white, I've heard that too. So yeah.
I always hear the white in BC. I never hear them in Ontario.
I
they're like totally different sides, like New York and Los Angeles, like totally two different sides for Canada.
I just feel like, like we all have different colored hair. Why can't they?
Fair enough. Yeah.
I believe there could be a white Bigfoot. In fact, David Altman says he's got a picture of a white Bigfoot. Yeah, he says he's going to send it over to me. I don't know if I'll be able to download it, but yeah, please send it over. I'd like to see that. I think, though, that there's white. I saw a Bigfoot. My first-hand encounter was a reddish brown colored hair, a Bigfoot. Wow. It looked like a human. It looked like a disheveled human he was deformed. A lot of people suggested, because I had the renditions of it that I did on his show. A lot of people suggested it had like Down syndrome looking. It was just very, like, it went through a war. He had like battle scars on his face. And I was close enough to get the detail. Sibylla Irwin did it for me. Fantastic artist. And so, but here's the thing. I seen it, then it metamorphosed, I should say, into just this creature. It looked like, I always say a demon. Today I don't believe it was a demon, but that face, it just turned, it dropped its jaw, it yelled at me. I got hit with some sonic blast. And the beautiful day, the colors of the day turned black and white. Time seemed like it stood still. I couldn't move. My girlfriend fell off the boat, and I couldn't get her because I was paralyzed, asphyxiated at this thing. Like it had a hold on me, and my thoughts were not my own, right? Then I shook out of it. And I mean, I was just about to say there's different colors of these things. And yeah, I fully believe they can be any color. Absolutely. And a friend of mine, MK Davis, has a picture of a white Bigfoot. So I think much like people, they socialize. I think that they come in all shapes and sizes, like we have different cultures, different nationalities. I think that these are too, and I'm not in the aper group. I think there's some sort of hybrid humanoid of some sort. I really do. Flesh and blood, yet, Chrissy, with paranormal elements about them. That's why it's very fascinating, and so on. So again, I know you don't have a lot of time. Why don't you talk a little bit about if you want to comment on that, go right ahead. Then we can talk maybe a little bit about your podcast a little bit before you go.
Yeah. No, I think that's wild. And when she told me that story too, I was like, well, this is my first account of hearing someone telling me their first account, which, maybe I'll get more down the road, right?
Mhm.
Usually I get UFO first encounters or like,
Yeah.
non-human first encounters, not so much Bigfoot. So, and the worlds collide like they just do.
They do collide, and you
Yeah.
can send those my way too down the road, and I can
I
have
will.
them on the show.
100%. I will.
Oh, thank you.
My podcast, I podcast for the Debrief. So it's called Rebelliously Curious with Chrissy Newton. I talk about science, technology, and obviously UFOs. I interview all different types of people. I've talked to from Christopher Mellon, that has worked obviously under Secretary of Defense. And I've talked to counterintelligence officer Lou Elizondo, all the way down to like scientists, multiple different scientists, people working in technology. So a lot of edge science in UFOs is what I talk about on my podcast. And it's been a lot of fun. Like I love it. And to be honest, it's selfish in that way because I get to learn a lot. So that's why I love it so much too, because I'm learning like all the time. And then I obviously get to people come with me through this moment of learning and asking questions. And I get to do a lot of journalism out of it as well. And I just feel very lucky and grateful that people listen to it and watch it and like my work. And hopefully I keep getting to do it. And yeah. And also I get to ask questions that people have maybe the same questions, or ask questions that people want to know that they might not have access to certain people. And lucky enough, I might be able to talk to them, and maybe I'm asking something that they've always wanted to know as well too.
Right. Awesome.
Yeah, and first of all, the links to I got Chrissy's website, and links are pinned in this live show, and also if you watch the replay, it's pinned, so anybody can just click on it and check out Chrissy, because it's fascinating stuff. I did watch a couple episodes, not all the way through, because you know how it goes, but you made a great point. I mean, it's not enough time in the day. You need 36 hours, right? In 20 out of 24. If that even makes sense, and it doesn't, but you mentioned something about learning. I love doing this. I know Krista has too. Since I started doing this, I learned so much every single day. Today I learned a lot from you already that I didn't think about. So again, I've learned today, and I love doing this to learn. And I also do this to share other people's experiences, because this is a safe place for people to come that have had encounters, whether it's cryptid or alien, and they don't want to be judged, ridiculed. They don't want to go public. Some do, some don't. And they come on the show, safe space, tell your story, because that story it's not, well, I say story, but that encounter, true cryptid encounter that happened, I was lost and alone for so long. I was questioning my sanity. I own my own business, but I told my manager, I got to take some time off. I don't know when you're going to see me. Just don't rip me off, type of thing. And I took like a 6-month leave of absence from work till I got my head together. And I fortunately found a group of people that helped me. And then I ended up selling the bar a couple years later. Then I decided, I want to have people tell their stories, because I don't want anybody to feel how I was, lost and alone in the world, when something like this is not supposed to exist, is right at your doorstep, 90 feet away from me off my boat, right? So that's kind of the other reason why I do this. And, and I thought this was just a fantastic show. I'm going to have to get you for a couple hours when, you have the next day off.
I know. I get up in the morning, do a media piece, but it starts at 6 and I got to be up at 4 because I got to get ready. Like, and sound weirdly not puffy too, getting up at as a woman, you're like, we settle it for 2 hours.
I know, Chrissy, we talked earlier.
Not young anymore.
Well, you look just fine to me. We were, a little bit earlier, we talked about the differences between men and women. Here's the other big difference. And I was married for 7 years. No longer. Now, I will say this, the big difference. Men, we can get up, throw our stuff together in a half hour. The girlfriend, the wife, women, 2 hours in the bathroom. Yep. They make themselves, get their stuff together, Well,
for TV, I have to, but in real life, I really don't wear makeup.
Well, okay, well, TV, yeah.
I just get up and work.
Hey, in TV,
for TV, you have to, because I don't know anyone wants to see me in the morning at 6 a.m. without makeup. I don't.
Well, the producers wouldn't allow it anyway, Chris. You know that. Put your face on, Chrissy.
Exactly. They'd be like,
Yeah.
put some lip gloss, Chrissy. Come on, let's shapen up here. So yeah, so I have to get up at 4 a.m., which is not my usual wake up time. Let's just say that. I'm like,
Yeah,
obviously
that's-
getting my normal people time. 4
that's
o'clock
got
to me is not
awful
normal.
early. That's
It's-
got
yeah.
awful early.
Yeah.
If I had to get up at 4 in the morning to drive to work, I'd want my work to be 2 hours away so I could just chill on the way into work because I don't function at 4 a.m. I don't. Unless I'm out, in the field or something, looking stargazing, right? Looking up, as they say.
That's different. I think that's also like kind of like relaxing.
It is. It is. Got the campfire going outside. Yeah, that's the thing to do. So if you're new here, please subscribe to Chrissy Newton's Rebellious. What does it say?
Rebelliously Curious with Chrissy Newton.
I should have wrote that one down. It's a
Except the
mouthful.
you can, if you, that's what it is on all audio. If you want to just
Okay.
listen to me rather than watch it on YouTube. But if you want to go to YouTube, it's the Debrief YouTube channel where you can.
And I
find it.
just subscribed to you.
Thank you very much. I appreciate
Yeah,
it.
I did as well. Yeah, a
Thank
couple
you.
days ago, watched a few snippets, as I said. Well, Chris, I want to have you back for sure. I appreciate you coming on, taking the time out of your day, getting ready, go to bed here in another half hour. So I really appreciate it. I love the fantastic show as always. And I look forward to hearing more from you. And I'll be following you a lot more now. Glad to finally meet you digitally, as they say.
Yes.
Yeah.
And maybe one day in real life too. So
You never know. You never know what life has in store for us around the corner.
that sounds true.
True.
Nice to meet you both. digitally.
Chrissy Newton.
Thank you.
Check her out. Thanks,
Thank
Chrissy.
you.
Bye, guys. Bye.
See you
Bye.
later. Bye-bye.
That was a great show. I love that show. A lot of information. She's very informative, well spoken, and I enjoyed
Yes.
that. Part
She's
of the
great,
show.
actually. Yeah, I can show you. I have questions all here that I didn't get to ask
Oh
yet.
well, you should have stopped me.
I
You
wrote
should
down,
have
it's all good. It's all good. Next
stopped
time.
me on that one.
Well,
Oh,
my
we'll
point
get her
being
back
is
next.
that you have to get her back on. So
Yeah, that's for sure. So,
Mhm.
you know what? We're not going to cut it now. We're going to still go a little bit longer, like we normally do.
yeah, why
And
not?
what I'm going to do, I'm going to step away for a minute. I want you. Why don't you talk about something we got going on, if you want to do that? And I'll be back in 2 seconds.
I'll wait till you're back for that.
Okay, well, you have to entertain our people because I still have to step away for just a second. I'll be right there. Mama.
Okay.
All right.
All right. I guess talk about what we have going on, Blondes and Booze. We have Thursday night. We have it's the haunted souls as well as the haunted garage. They're kind of a duo there, and they have haunted cars and things like that. They're coming on our show on Thursday because they have invited us to on Friday night. We are going to the haunted Emmaus Village in Marthasville, Missouri, to investigate it. Apparently, the place is like super huge, and so Friday night there will not be a Blondes and Booze show, because we will be there, and I'm not sure if I'll get service or not because it is out in the middle of nowhere. So if I can get service, then we might do some live, but if not, then you won't hear from us until the following week. So anyway, I look forward to doing that. And yeah, that's about it. I'm not sure who Paranormal Paul has on this week either, or anybody else, or what anybody else has got going on. So anyway, did you guys enjoy her? Because I sure did. I can't wait until BMR gets her back on. She was good. And like I said, I have a lot of questions that I didn't get a chance to ask her about. So anyway, I'm just going to read through chat here and see. Yeah, Mickey says she liked her too. Yeah, I liked her a lot. She's very well spoken. And I haven't actually watched her TV shows, so I'm going to have to definitely look that up too, because I mean, she was really good. So Pancho says yes, ×3. Yeah, she's very knowledgeable too. So Greg says Paul is one awesome dude. Well, he can be at times. Pancho says she wasn't drooling. What would she be drooling over, Pancho? That's funny. Yeah. Paranormal Paul says, great guest. I'm planning on reaching out to her. Love the subject. Yeah. We really don't do a whole lot of UFO shows.
Yeah, no.
And,
Yeah.
We really don't. So, yeah.
Well, I think we're all fascinated, and I think we all look it up and do, I think we all sit at home, do our own little research and watch YouTube channels. A lot of my friends that
Right.
have channels talk about that all the time, and I'm very interested.
Yeah.
And finding a really good guest to have on, I think we nailed it there. And in fact, the last Tuesday we're having another UFO person on. Amy from Good Morning UFO will be joining me in 2 weeks, me and you. So this is kind of was the warm up for her because she's full of information as well and knowledge. So that'll be fun. But yeah, I really enjoyed it. It was a great show.
I did
And,
too. I really
and
enjoyed it.
yeah, and a lot of people, they love when you do the cryptids and the dog man, but you gotta be a variety, right? You gotta,
Yeah, we really don't do enough, at least I know on the blonde side of things, enough UFO shows, and we need to start doing more. I just don't have a lot of connections with people in the UFO. You know what I'm saying? Most of my connections are paranormal and Bigfoot and things like that. So,
I had Chrissy on my Twitter, and I know I talked with David Altman a long time ago, and he sent me some people to follow, which I did, and I finally just reached out to her because I just happened to see her when I was on Twitter. I said, "Hey, I'm going to send her a message." So that's how that sprang on. But so yeah, no, I'm fascinated by the topic, and as you know, if you go on any media, any internet, any channel, there's so much. I mean, it's where do you start for me? Like I said on the show, where do you actually start? There's so much when you talk about these hearings, the government, people's encounters, space, all these scientists. It's a lot to. It can make your brain explode for sure. So spoons, spoonfuls at a time, right?
yeah, absolutely. Yep. I was just reading Greg's joke there. What's a banker's favorite cereal? Checks.
Oh, well, yeah. Moisten it down with some milk and you're ready to go, right, Greg?
Yeah, that's funny. That's too funny. Yeah. I was just reading chat.
No, thanks. I know I didn't say hi to everybody in chat. Hello to everybody. Thanks for coming on. If you are new here, please subscribe to Bigfoot Mr. Rob on YouTube, The Blondes and the Booze, and of course, Texas Front Porch. We got Paranormal Paul. Subscribe to him. He's in the house. Monica Rollins, Our Paranormal World, and a few others that are out there. Donnie Cho says stuff. Donnie Cho.
Yeah.
So we've kind of got pretty much 90% of our parameters done for something we're going to be doing in September, and kind of not 100% there, but it's just about there as far as we're concerned. So it's a matter of starting to market it here in another few weeks, and I'm excited. We'll be going to your state. What are we doing in your state?
We're gonna do a conference.
We're doing a nice conference. Yes, we are. We're putting on a conference September 20th, right?
Yep.
And I didn't say October. And it's going to be very cool. Thanks, David. I seen that. I'm going to pull that up when I get a chance here. Yeah, we're doing what? It's going to be cryptid, UFOs, and paranormal. So we're going to combine the three genres, if you will, and have a variety of speakers that speak on all the subjects. So I'm really looking forward to that.
We even have speakers on elementals.
On elementals. So yeah, this is going to be, it's going to have a little of something for everybody.
That's right.
Whether you're a fan of Bigfoot and Dogman or UFOs and aliens or paranormal and ghosts, the elementals of the forest. Yeah. So yeah, and we've got some great speakers lined up for that as well. And I'm looking forward to that. And also, we're also going to be doing a ghost hunt with a couple of the ghost speakers, which I think will be fun.
Yeah, any of our celebrity speakers that are coming are welcome to ghost hunt, which I know some of them have committed already to the ghost hunt part of it. But yeah, we're going to do an overnight ghost hunt at the Ray County Museum after the conference. It'll be that evening after the conference. So that'll be interesting. And then our friends from After Dark Paranormal, they're going to run that part of it. So yeah.
Awesome. Yeah. This will be fascinating. And I'm going to Dave Altman sent me. I'm going to see if I can pull this up right now. He sent me a picture of a white. I think he did. I don't see it.
He said he did.
Yeah, here it is. Hang on. Okay, I gotta do this, do this. Okay, download. Bear with me a minute there, Krista. You know how I am here. Download. Yeah, I think I'll be able to pull this up right now. Let's see. Thank you, Mark.
Mhm.
Yeah, or no, that would be yeah. Okay, I think I got one more step. All these.
And real quick, too, tickets for the conference and the ghost hunt will be go on sale December 1st. So,
December 1st, yeah, going live with that December 1st. We're starting this like a little over about a year in advance, just to get it out, spread the word of mouth. And yeah, I got that. Hey, Dave, hopefully you're still in chat. I'm sure you are. He sent me this picture of a white Bigfoot.
oh wow.
And you can definitely see now. You definitely see the eye shine, right? And I can see a
Mhm.
conical head. And yeah, man, I like that. You can see the white shadow
Yeah.
frame, if you will, or it looks like it's veering off into appears to be a tree there. Looks as right by a power pole. It looks like that. I think
I don't think
maybe
that's I think that's a barn. I think that's like a lean-to of a barn. Is what it looks
maybe.
like to me.
Yeah, maybe it is. Yeah,
Kind of a lean-to that hangs over.
yeah, you're right.
Mm-hmm.
Wow, that's.
Wow.
Well, I tell you what, whatever it's tall too.
Yeah.
I mean, that brush off to the right there's got to be 4 foot high, and this
So
is
if
in
you
the back.
but if you look at the window or the door on top of the barn up there, a lot of times that's like where the hayloft is. That's pretty high up there. You know what I'm saying?
That is pretty high. Well, it's definitely wide. It looks like it's maybe off to the side because I can
Yeah.
actually see the left outer arm. Now that I'm straining my eyes, Dave. Yeah, I can really see a nice little outline there. That is pretty cool.
Yeah.
That is pretty cool. I like that.
It
But
is.
like we were talking, Bigfoot cryptids, they come in all shapes and sizes and different colors.
That they do.
And
Yep. Absolutely, they do. That's
now
pretty.
now the one that you encountered was dark. Would you say that was black from what I needed?
I just seen the shadow of it, so I didn't actually see a color. Brandy did.
Brandy's seen, yeah.
Brandy said it was dark.
A dark color, like a black.
Yeah.
Thanks, David Altman, for that photo. That's awesome, man.
Yeah.
I gotta get David. I gotta get you on too. He knows a lot about both subjects. He's a cryptid and UFO guy as well, and he's out in Los Angeles.
Los Angeles.
Yeah.
Awesome. Actually, one of our speakers that we have coming is in our chat, Mr. Greg Ogles.
Greg Ogles, Relic Films.
Yep.
And actually, if you're in Alabama, January 4th, he's premiering his film at a theater.
It's in Coleman, Alabama.
Coleman, Alabama. At one of the local theaters there, which is pretty sweet. I'm sure that if you don't have tickets, I know he has tickets on sale. I think that if you showed up, you could get in without a problem. I'm not speaking for Greg, but I'm guessing. Excuse me.
Yeah. Yeah, definitely come see us. I think it's going to be an incredible film. I'll tell you what, like in this film, there is a lot of, there's TV shows that go on for years and years and years and don't capture this kind of evidence that actually Greg caught that night. That's going to be on his film. So it's worth the watch. I'm telling you guys.
Yeah, of course, Greg says, shh, it's a surprise. AMC Theater, then he says. So, yeah, the AMC, well-known theater, one of the few theaters left, I think.
Yeah.
We got all these star theaters we used to have around me, and I don't think does anybody go to the movies today? The actual movie theater?
I go a couple times a year. I take my kids.
Yeah. I try to go at least once a year. We got the big one where, they have the reclining leather chairs.
Oh, yeah. Heck yeah. You can't go to one without that. What are you talking about?
They even have an adult. If they have adult beverages there to go along with your popcorn, if you choose
There
to
you go.
partake. I can't do that though. If I really want to watch a movie, I got to be straight and narrow. I don't like
Yeah.
having any.
My thing is, I don't like to be out like drinking and yeah.
That's not the thing you pull. No, Joe, I do not.
Rob doesn't even have any hair.
I shave. My entire body's waxed. No, it's not. Just kidding there.
Yeah, I like the movies though. I like going but next time I'll be going is to Coleman, Alabama, AMC Theater.
Yeah, let's just, we got Thanksgiving coming up, then we got Christmas, and then before you know it, boom, right after New Year, Coleman, Alabama.
Yeah. Yep. From here on out, I think I have so much PTO to use. We're only working like 4-day work weeks because I'm taking hours and days and yeah.
Yeah, hours and days. Yeah.
Yeah.
Well, good. Well, isn't it a nice feeling to have all that? Man, my throat's now getting scratchy. Isn't that nice to have that banked, and all of a sudden you don't really, because you don't have nothing to do. Why waste it just to have a couple of days off and do nothing?
Right. Well, and I never know when I want to do something, and I'm also taking off the week of. I'm taking off Christmas Day to January 2nd, too. So. And I am not going to work that because a lot of times I'll say like, oh, I'm gonna take off. I'm not going to work, but I always end up working, and I'm not that week. I'm not even going to bring my laptop home. I'm going to leave it at work, so I can't work.
No, good, great idea.
Mm-hmm.
That's cool. You said Christmas week through January 2nd.
Mm-hmm.
When I owned the bar, I worked all the time, and of course, as the owner, I could take time off when I needed. But I was always open for Christmas because, it's just busy time of year. But when I worked in the auto business, I always liked that part of the job because it was like right around December, back when I was doing it. Excuse me, guys and gals. Right around, for us, December 15th was officially our last day of work. And we didn't go back to January 2nd. And we had planned shutdowns, across the board. Now, being in management, every once in a while, I had to pop in maybe once for 3 hours during the week. Big deal. Didn't do anything anyway.
Yeah.
But so I liked having that time off for that time of year.
Oh, yeah,
and then,
for sure.
And that's like a vacation. If you wanted to plan a vacation, it wasn't costing you vacation time because it was mandatory. You're off.
Right.
And being salaried at the time, I got paid anyways, so which was another bonus.
Yeah.
But I really enjoyed that, and
I like hoarding my hours though. I'm weird like that because I'm like, what if I just get the urge to take off for a week and go somewhere? I can do it. Who knows? Or something happens and I need that time off. So I always have my time built. So I always get full paychecks. So.
Yeah, especially right around the holidays. You like that full paycheck.
Yeah. And then if I'm going to be like off during the week, so I have the option, like I'll work on Sunday. So I'll make up my hours instead of taking my PTO.
Awesome.
Yeah.
It's always great to have that insurance in the background.
Absolutely.
So with that being said, I've got nothing else. I've got, again, today's Tuesday. I don't know what I'm doing on Thursday as of yet, but I got my Thursday show. And then next Tuesday, joining us will be Jody Cook. North American Dogmat Project will be joining us next Tuesday. So that's as far as my brain can think forward, right? I don't have everything listed in front of me.
Yeah, I like Jody Cook.
Oh, yeah. You always got a wealth of information and a guy that actually has been out there in the field and seen the creatures. Yep. So he's always fun. He's always a fan favorite as well.
Mm-hmm.
But I think we're gonna cut it just a shade early today because I got some other things I gotta do and so on. And again, if you guys are just tuning in, watch the replay. Chrissy Newton was the guest. Fabulous show.
Yeah, she was great.
It's one of my favorite shows I think we've done. Very informative. Great show. Great person as well. You could tell right off the onset of the interview. So,
oh yeah.
So this was awesome.
Mm-hmm.
And Well, Krista, it's always a pleasure. Thank you to everybody for coming in. If I did not say hi, hello to everybody. Love you. Thank you. Subscribe if you're new. I appreciate the super chat thrown out there by Mark. That's awesome, buddy. Thank you so much.
Thank you, Mark.
You know, Christmas is coming. Type Bigfoot, the Mystery Rob on your Amazon browser, and you can find both my books. You don't have to buy both. If you buy one or both, please leave a review. That does help promote book sales. I appreciate that. Thanks, David Altman, for that picture. That was awesome. Thanks, bud. Thanks for coming on in. Good to see you. And for the rest of you, thank you. And I just got to do the old find the extra. I set it up where it's right in front of me now. With that being said, for Krista, for Rob, we're out.
See y'all.